What is up, everybody? It is your local Ottawa fan. I'm here today to talk about the 3-2 shootout loss to the Boston Fleet. First off, housekeeping. Oh my gosh, she's beautiful. She's beautiful. My favorite goal. Look at it. Look, it's beautiful. It's Phillips. It's Gwyneth the GOAT. The absolute GOAT. Oh. Isn't it beautiful? She's here with her friend Brianne Jenner. My goal is to have the whole roster by the end of the season, I think. It is good to be back. I forgot how much I miss PWHL hockey. I love the Olympics. I do. I still think, and I still stand by, PWHL hockey just kind of hits different. 8 teams that all have a good chance to win any given game and the whole thing. That's one thing. This game, Ottawa went in with a chance to end up in a playoff spot. They didn't win in regulation, so they, once it went to overtime, it was already guaranteed that even if Ottawa had won the game, they couldn't leapfrog New York right away. Now, if you look at, the schedule, Ottawa faces Seattle next, and New York faces Boston next, and then after that, it's an Ottawa-New York game. So, huge opportunity for Ottawa. But here's the thing. As easy as it is to be like, wow, Boston's like the best team or like one of the best teams. I know right now Montreal's ahead of them in points, but you also need to consider Montreal has 33 points in 17 games. Boston has 32 in 15. 2 games is significant in the PWHL because that is 6 available points that, Boston has yet to potentially get. So in theory, you could look at it as Montreal leaving 5 points on the board for Boston to potentially get and overtake them. So we'll see how things are. But nonetheless, my point is this. Yes, New York is facing a really tough team, and we are facing the worst team in the league in the Tort. Now, again, similarly, 16 points in 15 games versus 19 points in 17 games. You can argue, maybe they're actually going to do better than the Golden Knights. My point is this. The difference between first and fourth ain't that big. The difference between fourth and eighth ain't that big. I would argue that the difference between first and eighth is rather large, but only in terms of points, not really in terms of skill. We are going to see, I do think this season we might see tanking a bit more proactively than in previous years. In previous years, the first team to get mathematically eliminated was basically guaranteed first because the other teams were playing to the very last game. It wasn't possible for Ottawa to get first overall because they were still alive in the playoffs at the end of the 2024 season. It wasn't possible for Boston to get first overall because they were still alive at the end of the 2024-2025 season. So this season, that's not going to happen. I don't think there's going to be 4 teams battling it out for one playoff spot on the last day of the season. We're probably going to see at least 2 or 3 teams get eliminated before then. And also, we are going to see, if you're in 8th place and you are not mathematically eliminated yet, but you need to leapfrog 4 teams and you're 8-9 points out of the race with 5 or 6 games left, you're done. And you would know at that point that your season is done. And, that's when I think it'll be interesting, because then it actually becomes better for you to just get eliminated as quickly as possible. You don't want to barely be on life support and then miss out on the first overall draft pick because, hey, you kept yourself technically alive even though everyone knew you weren't going to make it. But still, if you aren't mathematically eliminated, play like it. Play like you have a chance. But yeah, it's going to be real interesting to see how the rest of the season breaks down because Montreal in January was dead last and now they're one in the league. We were dead last at the start of the season and now we are fighting for a playoff spot. We're very close. I definitely do think that Ottawa is more than capable of making it. But you can't take Seattle lightly, and Boston can't take New York lightly. So while I do think the most likely outcome is an Ottawa win and a Boston loss, or at least a combination, as long as one of the two happen, then when Ottawa faces New York, even if New York only wins in a overtime or shootout, it would still give Ottawa an opportunity to gain a lot of ground to tie them up points wise. We could really see that game, which would be game number 19, deciding who's going into the last third of the season, in a playoff spot. I like that we have this kind of parity, because as much as I loved Olympic hockey, we all knew the gold medal game. We all knew that it was going to be Canada, US, probably going to be kind of close, because the gold medal games usually are, even if, everything else is suggesting a blowout. You want to know who's going to be in the IIHF World Championship women's gold medal game? It's going to be Canada and the U.S. And you want to know who's going to be... I don't want to say next Olympics. Hopefully there will be enough that there's at least an outside chance. But right now, it's going to be Canada and the U.S. Oh, it's a women's final? Canada and the U.S. It's always Canada and the U.S. Save for, one or two exceptions. Who's going to be in the finals this year? Who knows? Could be anyone. It really could be anyone. I will say, Seattle is the one team where, they have 16 points. Right now, playoffs is 18. Wow. Playoffs is 24. They are 8 points out of it. If they lose to Ottawa, this would inherently mean that Ottawa would at least be at 25 points. And they would be now even further back. This would leave them at most at 17 points if they lose. If Seattle loses to Ottawa, then they would be, I think, 10 points back of a playoff spot. And again, 10 points with 16 games is when you start to question, do you want to win? Or do you want to get eliminated real quick and then win? But even still, the opposite is true. If Seattle wins, and especially if Seattle wins in regulation, they're a mere 5 points out of the playoffs. That's 2 wins. And they got 2 games in hand. Okay, they'd have 1 game in hand afterwards, but still, 1 game in hand, down 1 regulation loss, 1 overtime loss, beyond doable. Beyond doable with half a season to go, a little less than half. So, this game. How did this game go? I thought it went well. I know we lost. It was an Ottawa-Boston game. We always knew it was going to shoot out. This is kind of the inverse of Season 1, where in Season 1, Ottawa could not win in overtime or shootout for the life of them until finally they got a win against Boston in shootout at TD. Now, the opposite was true. Ottawa cannot lose in overtime or shootout. It is a death sentence. But finally, a team has beaten Ottawa in a shootout. This is the first game. We are 17 games deep, and for the first time, Ottawa scored multiple goals, but didn't ultimately win the game. That's a wild stat. You know what's even wilder? Whenever they've scored 2 goals or more, they've at least gotten a point. Overtime, it's kind of a double-edged sword in this league because you are leaving points on the table. But there have only been like, I think 5 games where that Ottawa played without a point. It's 5 or 6, something like that. 4 regulation wins, I think 7, so that's 11. This would be number 12. Yeah, 5 games where Ottawa left all the points on the table. The issue is they've only had 4 where they left none of the points on the table. Every other game, the other 8, have resulted in them getting at least 1 point, but not all 3. Is that sustainable? Well, as we saw in Season 1, if it's usually 1 point, no, it's not. But I think if it's mostly 2 points, yeah, that's sustainable. If you're getting a bunch of overtime wins with the occasional overtime loss, that will get you into the playoffs. Now, will you win in the playoffs? I mean, who knows? Genuinely, who knows? Because playoff overtime is a completely different monster. And it would just prove that you are net neutral 5-on-5. So who knows what that would even say for playing a playoff hockey. If one thing, it would mean that you're prepared for overtime. Oh boy, we love that extra hockey here in Ottawa. Boston's a good team. You can't win them all. Fresh off of the Olympic break, I'm happy to get a point. I'm happy to stay in the playoff race. Inch a little closer. We went into this game 2 points out of the playoffs. We came out of this game 1 point out of the playoffs. There's lots of season left. That's a win in my book. That's a win in my book. Against a team like Boston. That's good to see. Rebecca Leslie is just continuing to prove that she should have been in the Olympics. Aaron Frankel let in 2 goals all tournament. Guess how many goals Rebecca Leslie scored this game? Best player in the league. You don't believe me? Look at her stats. Rebecca Leslie currently is tied in a 5-way tie with Brianne Jenner, might I add, and three Frost, the Frost, the Charge, and then everybody else in terms of points. There's a 5-way tie for first place in points. Rebecca Leslie, with this, has not only put herself there, she is one of just 2 players to have 10 goals and 16 points. Wild that she's doing that good. Again, arguably MVP, certainly a nominee. Her and Jenner, I think, are both putting up legitimate MVP campaigns. And speaking of, that goal race just got a lot more interesting. Leslie is firmly in the hunt to try and end this season number 1 in goal scoring. She is 1 goal back of the league lead. Rebecca Leslie has been playing some of the best hockey I have seen out of anyone on the Ottawa Charge. I have to admit, she's my favorite player. Hometown hero. Left Toronto to come play for her home in Mwah! Yes. And then she just says, oh, I know, now I'm going to be like the best player in the league. She played in the Send Kills competition for shot accuracy. She beat everyone. Everyone. Oh, but the NHL man, she beat them. She beat the NHL man. Every single one of them. Every single person in that building was not as skilled at shooting a puck accurately as Rebecca Leslie. She is an elite talent. Elite. And she has played amazing all season, and this game, no different. It's not just that she scored 2 goals, which she did. Well, let's go with it, right? Scoring, Boston scored first. Abby Newhook, assisted by Alina Mueller, who had a great game as well. Boston goes up 1-0 in what I thought was a pretty even first period. Shots were 12-9 for the Charge at the end of the first, but all game, the second period shots went down. We only got 2. Boston got 5. The second period died down, but the third period picked it back up. The pace, I really liked the pace this game. The teams were aggressive. We kept pace. We matched one of the best, fastest, toughest, strongest teams in the league. We matched wits with them up and down the score sheet. Shots-wise, pretty close, 25-23. Power plays, we were 1 for 2, they were 1 for 4. But some of the power plays, coincided, and so, it ate into each other's power plays. I think that, again, there's a lot of good here. It's okay to lose a shootout every once in a while. Don't make a habit out of it. Don't make this a habit. But if this is an exception and we can go back to winning, and again, this is Boston, now you got to beat Seattle, you got to beat New York. And these are teams that if you can keep up with Boston, you should be able to beat them. And if you can get 5, 6 points, even 4, but preferably 5 or 6 points out of those 2 games, you put yourself in an excellent position to finish the season strong, make the playoffs, and go on a run. And this suggests to me that you're more than capable. The second period, the first period, I got to break down the penalties. We take a penalty in the first, and nothing comes of it. And in the second period, I like LaRock. She's got to get on the penalties. She's got to, like they said, she takes a lot where I know she's capable of making a better defensive play, and instead she just takes a penalty, and that's, it's not good for the team. But the one I want to say is late in the period, Boston takes a penalty. Our penalty kills this game was great, even though Boston did end up scoring on the power play. They were 1 for 4, and our penalty kill looked generally pretty good. Our power play only had 2 opportunities. The first opportunity looks great for the first minute and a half before the period ends. And I thought to myself, like, it's a shame because that power play looked really good, and now we only have, like, less than, like 31 seconds. Like, we're not going to... Boom! Becca Leslie. Becca Leslie's skill comes in that wherever the perfect place for her to be on the ice is, that's where she is. She is in the exact right spot you would need someone to be to score the tying goal, and she scores. And then less than 2 minutes later, I mean, the move, the silky mitts, the skating, the everything, the, what's that word again? Shot accuracy. Perfect. And she scores again. And just like that, Ottawa goes from being down 1-0 to up 2-1. But I also want to say, and she did not score in this shootout. And she did have, I think really 2 breakaways where she didn't score. And so some I've seen online being like, but she can't score on the breakaway. But the reason why people would say that is because they have a sample size of Becca Leslie on the... Do you know how many players don't have enough of a sample size for you to be able to judge how good their breakaway? She is one of the few players in this league who's able to consistently put herself in a position to get a breakaway. A breakaway is a free shot. A free shot against the goalie. And if you don't score, you can still get them out of position. You can still set up in the zone. You're in the zone first. So if you don't score, you've established possession in the offensive zone. And you get a free shot. You get a free shot and offensive zone possession. So even if you never score on the breakaway, it is still useful for you to be the player who can consistently get that breakaway. Because getting that breakaway is getting your team possession in the offensive zone. And once you're set up in the offensive zone and Rebecca Leslie is in that offensive zone, she's going to score on you. And if she doesn't score, she sure as hell is going to get an assist. That is her skill. That she knows where to be. Her hockey IQ is phenomenal. Phenomenal. So again, I want to bring up the sense skills competition. With her brain, I would not be surprised if she ends up coaching in the NHL one day. She has that level of knowledge of this sport. It is a miracle to me what she does on the ice. It is a miracle that she is so knowledgeable. It's not something you can train. It's not something you can learn. It's a sixth sense that and it's not talked about enough. That Rebecca Leslie has that sixth sense that only the elitist of elite have. Has that knowledge of exactly what you need to do, where you need to be. There's a reason why she has the points that she does. Every single game this season, I've been like, wow, Rebecca Leslie looked really good. Even when she didn't score, didn't get a point. Even if we lost, there's never been a game where she didn't look good. There's never been a shift that she's taken off. She is the most consistent player, I'm going to say it, in the league. Period. No one shows in every shift, night in, night out, showing up like Rebecca Leslie. My hero. Hometown hero. I really hope at the Canadian Tire Center she lights it up, because no player in this league, in the world, deserves it more than her. Can you tell I like Rebecca Leslie? And then, we take a penalty, they take a penalty not too long after, and then we take a penalty. It's Jocelyn Larocque again, and that is where Boston ties it. I don't want to harp on Jocelyn Larocque too much, okay? I'd like a little bit of a cleaner game. I think would go a long way. Brianne Jenner had a decent shootout. One scored, one didn't, but it was a good move. Ultimately, Boston just, they came out on top in the shootout. It's a shootout, We beat them twice in a shootout. They beat us once. All three of those games could have gone either way. But this, I think, is one of the closest games we've played with them in terms of the whole game. This is, I think, one of the best. Like, there was one of the shootouts where it felt like we really got away with one. Where it was like, we had no business winning that game, and we stole 2 points. This one, both teams deserved it. It could have gone either way. It going to shootout seemed inevitable. Okay, they got 2, we got 1. Next game. That's the mentality you need to have. And honestly, that's the mentality I do have, because this game and how they played, I think, if anything, it gives me confidence. It gives me confidence to say they can win. They can do it. Tell your friends, the PWHL is back. I'm back. If you want to see how I react to the roller coaster ride that is going to be the second half of the season, please subscribe to the channel, like and comment. I saw someone at the game who recognized me and watches my channel, and you have no idea how out of body surreal that is. Like the coolest thing ever. It is so cool when people say, "Oh, I watch your video." Like, what? This is a small channel with only like 150 some subscribers, but it's so cool. Like, that actually, it didn't make my day. It made my whole week. It really did. So, if you enjoy this, please do that. If you do see me at a game, feel free to say hi. And let's finish strong. As always, go Ottawa, go!